Part 93. Magic Planet Online Game. Author, Lanzai Cai Shi Zhen Shen. Chapter 921. Green Xiaoming brought a few followers. He was doing very well in the Nordic Fairy Palace. His prestige and fame were unparalleled. If he were an ambitious and resourceful reincarnationist, he could use this momentum to make a lot of moves and make a lot of money. Now, a reincarnationist came to find King Lu. One day, Green Xiaoming was on an ice field somewhere, practicing the use of the fairy palace ring to release cold attacks. Check Fried first taught him for a long time, and then let him play alone. For King Lu's rookie-like fighting talent, this strongest god warrior had no tricks. If it were someone else, Check Fried would not have spent so much effort. However, King Lu was a great benefactor of the fairy palace, and Check Fried was willing to teach patiently. Xiaoming was also helpless. There was only one fairy palace ring. And only 3 Xiaomings could wear it, not even the clones. He couldn't find someone to train with him. However, this thing was just for fun, and Xiaoming didn't force it. Just when he was having fun, 3 strange reincarnations appeared. In the middle was a middle-aged man in his 40s with extraordinary temperament. He had a square face, was tall, and wore the uniform of a Navy admiral. The white clothes indicated that he should be imitating Admiral Aokiji. However, he was not a dedicated cosplayer. Except for the clothes, he was not like Admiral Aokiji. In terms of appearance, he still maintained his own appearance. With thick eyebrows and big eyes, he looked like a good person. Xiaoming observed that his strength should be around B and level. He really has the capital to be able to cosplay Aokiji. Because he is indeed a user of the Ice Fruit ability. Of course, he is not a 100% ability user. His left arm was amputated at the shoulder and his right leg was gone below the knee. He used ice to condense a calf instead. It can be seen that the integrity of the ice fruit he took should be more than 70%. I wonder if he was just lucky to be able to destroy these 2 parts that could withstand it, or if he had any tricks. However, the successful use of the natural devil fruit brought him great strength. He came to the Nordic Fairy Palace to give full play to his abilities. On the left of this person is a girl, wearing the ninja outfit of Konoha village, and her strength is about B level. It seems that she is cosplaying Tian Tian. However, Xiaoming can see clearly that this girl is good at water escape ninjutsu. This ability is indeed suitable for the Nordic Fairy Palace. Xiaoming thinks that if she goes to the underwater Poseidon temple, she may be more like a fish in water. But that depends on chance. The person on the right is not a Kozer. On the surface, he is a strong man with a furry animal skin. It fits the Nordic environment very well. But Xiaoming always feels that something is wrong with him. His attribute points are too high. Xiaoming took a closer look and found a clue. This guy has a shallow demonic power in his body, so he should be a demon. Xiaoming can roughly feel that this is a bear animal that has become a spirit. It appears here, maybe it is a polar bear spirit. However, his spiritual power, or demonic power, is very ordinary. There is a magic wand hidden in the sleeve of his right hand. The fighting method of this bear spirit is actually the magic of the Harry Potter world. Xiaoming shook his head in his heart. It is rare to cultivate into a human form, why not continue to cultivate spiritual power? Demon cultivation is the right way. No matter what Xiaoming thinks, the 3 of them are getting closer and closer, and Xiaoming feels that the other party is running towards him. So he stopped practicing and waited for them to come. Big brother Lu Wang, you are so powerful, there are legends about you everywhere in the fairy palace. Several of us came here because of your reputation. The girl who spoke was a little familiar. Xiaoming smiled, little sister, you are too kind, who are you? Brother, my name is Xiao Tian Tian, the big guy is Xiang Qi, this one is from the famous Game of Thrones, his name is, I Sixth Heaven. Game of Thrones is a good name, but Xiao Ming has never heard of this name. Looking at the slightly proud look of the man in the middle, it seems to be a very famous organization. Xiao Ming didn't want to attract hatred, so he pretended to be shocked. Wow! I've heard of you for a long time. You guys came to see me, but what's the matter? A look of satisfaction flashed in the eyes of Bingzi Liuchongtian. But there was no arrogance in his words. No, no, you are too polite. We are here to ask Mr. Lu Wang for help. He looked around and said, how about we sit down and talk? Okay, several people found a few stones to sit down and listen to Bingzi Liuchongtian's story. Mr. Lu Wang, according to our intelligence, Hilda will summon 7 God Warrior armors in the near future. And choose 7 people to become God Warriors. Originally, these 7 candidates have been fixed, and there is no room for competition. We reincarnations have no chance at all. But your prestige seems to be a little special. In my opinion, if you apply to Queen Hilda, you should have a chance to get a piece of armor. To be honest, how did you do it? It's amazing. Speaking of this, he looked at Xiao Ming with a little exploratory look. Xiao Ming had no choice but to spread his hands and indicated that he had nothing to say. The 6th heaven of ice did not hesitate. After all, this must be a top-secret strategy. Even if you spend a lot of money to buy it, the other party may not be willing to sell it. It is normal not to say it. They have made a serious assessment of King Lu's strength. King Lu's own combat power has hardly been demonstrated. It can only be analyzed through his 4 followers. Xiajia, Kangma, Xiaohong, Xiaolu. This is already a well-known thing in the Immortal Palace. What shocked them the most was Xiaohong. They had no ability to distinguish the strength of these followers, but Xiaohong was a 100% ice fruit user. Based on his familiarity with the fruit's ability, I6th Heaven felt that Xiaohong had eaten a more complete ice fruit. At least 80% or more. If there were no such standard, I really don't know how to judge King Lu's strength. Among the reincarnationists, a devil fruit with a high degree of integrity is an absolute symbol of strength. Only a powerful force can produce such a high degree of integrity. What's more terrifying is that this is not taken by the reincarnationist himself, but by the followers of the reincarnationist, which is simply inhumane. Of course, the Song of Ice and Fire is also an organization with such strength. The other party did not think that they had lost to King Lu. They just recognized the status of equal communication between the 2 parties. If King Lu was replaced by another reincarnationist of average strength, they would definitely not be so polite. But then again, a reincarnationist of average strength is unlikely to gain such a high prestige in the fairy palace. So facing this situation, the few reincarnations were not surprised, and they just traded normally. After all, opportunities are rare. You will definitely get this armor next time, right? So this time, we want to buy it from you. What do you think? Magic Planet Online Game. Author, Lanzai Cai Shi Zhen Shen. Chapter 922. Brother, you think too highly of me, Xiao Ming said with a sad face. This God Warrior armor is the same level as the Gold Saint cloth, right? How can I take it out? This is a joke. As soon as he said this, Bingzi Liuchongtian and Xiaoshanation laughed, but Xiangqi answered first. It seems that Mr. Lu doesn't understand the rules very well. Since we are telling you now, of course we are the ones who will do the task and take the armor out. When you get it, just trade it to us. At this time, Bingzi Liuchongtian took over the conversation. If you take it out, we will have to buy it at the market price. It's too expensive. Although he said so, in fact, there was no meaning of not being able to afford it in his tone. There are such rules for the transaction of items between reincarnations. The price of transactions within the reincarnation world is called internal price, the price of transactions outside the reincarnation world is called market price. Mid and low-end items are not valuable, and basically all reincarnations can get them. So the difference between internal price and market price is not big. The market price is only about 2 or 3 times the internal price. However, high-end items are extremely rare, and the market price starts at least 10 times the internal price. The higher the price, the greater the price difference. Because you need to complete a series of tasks in the space to get items in the world and take them out. The tasks are very difficult, and even if you are well prepared, the success rate will not be too high. Therefore, internal trading of items only gives the buyer an opportunity. On average, you have to complete several tasks to take the items out once. This time he entered Saint Seiya to follow Jiang Xiaoming and just to observe. When he came, he didn't know what kind of world it would be, and he really didn't plan to do such things. But such an opportunity is really rare, and it would be a pity to let it go. Generally, big forces will try their best when they encounter such an opportunity. And the sixth heaven of ice thought that King Lu was like him, and he also followed Jiang Xiaoming, so he should not have made any preparations. This gave him the opportunity to pick up the leak. Originally, he saw that King Lu had developed well in the Immortal Palace and his strength was indeed extraordinary. He planned to cooperate with King Lu to develop various tasks. It turned out that King Lu was a complete idiot. He had no intention of issuing any missions. He had an empty status but didn't know how to use it. He didn't know that King Lu had obtained the Ring of the Asgard. This was a secret inside the Asgard. He just thought that King Lu didn't know how to develop it. So the I-6th heaven immediately changed his mind. He united all the reincarnations near the Asgard and planned to use King Lu, the idiot, to gain greater benefits. The target was locked on the God Warrior armor. Why did he spend so much energy to take down this armor? If he pursued a secondary goal, the success rate would be much higher. On the one hand, it was because such an opportunity was rare. On the other hand, it was also to consolidate his own position. He simply took a risk. The I-6th heaven had just become a half-high-level person in the game of Ice and Fire organization not long ago. He successfully took the frozen fruit but did not die, which enabled him to obtain the status of the 6th heaven. But his strength and achievements were still lacking. There is no shortcut to improving strength. It takes a long time of hard practice. So now he urgently needs to make some achievements to consolidate his position. Taking the initiative to take on the task of monitoring Jiang Xiaoming is also a manifestation of his active work. Unexpectedly, he did not meet Jiang Xiaoming, but met a strange reincarnation like King Lu, who gave him a great opportunity. If he could get a God Warrior armor, he would be very successful. He would definitely be able to secure his position in the 6th heaven. These are the psychological activities of the 6th heaven of ice. Of course, they cannot be spoken out. But they could not hide from Xiaoming's telepathy. However, Xiaoming still pretended not to know, since he didn't have to do the task himself. Xiaoming simply agreed to it to save trouble. The two parties signed a space agreement. If Queen Hilda summoned the God Warrior armor, King Lu was obliged to ask Hilda for a piece of armor. After getting the armor, it needs to be transferred to the 6th heaven of ice at the first convenient time. The 6th heaven of ice must give 333% complete natural devil fruits to King Lu at the same time in exchange. If Queen Hilda did not summon the God Warrior armor, or summoned, King Lu also requested, but was not allowed. None of this can be considered King Lu's breach of contract. And I-6th heaven still has to pay a certain symbolic reward. That is, a 10% natural devil fruit. This kind of reward is better than nothing, just to prevent King Lu from working in vain. Some people may find it strange, why is it another devil fruit? Is this thing still crowded? We can see from the strength of I-6th heaven that their organization is quite familiar with the world of One Piece. There should be a good strategy. To be able to piece together a frozen fruit with a completeness of more than 70%, a large number of incomplete frozen fruits are needed. This is definitely not something that can be done by buying. This organization must have the ability to get it in the world of One Piece. Since they can get so many incomplete frozen fruits, they must have also obtained many other incomplete devil fruits. Most of the valuable ones are naturally kept for stacking, and there are always some for trading with other forces. In fact, the sixth heaven of ice offers many choices, not only devil fruits, but also incomplete Zanpakuto, incomplete superpower genes, fire source fragments, etc. After all, he has strength. He can get along well in the One Piece world, and he can also get good harvests in other worlds. Naturally, he has saved a lot of things. Devil fruits are not the most expensive ones, but Xiao Ming likes them. In addition, as a deposit, he generously gave King Lu 3 scrolls of refining magic. This scroll can fuse two monsters together to become another monster. Although it is called the scroll of refining magic, its function is not only to refine monsters. It can fuse any two things of the same type together. A third item will definitely appear. If the refining is successful, the third item will be a better thing. If it fails, you will get a piece of garbage. You must know that superimposing devil fruits is not simply pressing two fruits together. You must borrow the power of props. Of course, there are many props of this type, and the success rate is also uneven. The scroll of refining magic is one of them. It is still a type with a relatively low success rate. If it is used to refine demons, it would be better, but it is not cost-effective to fuse devil fruits. So the sixth heaven of ice also told it clearly. You can just play with this thing, but don't count on it. The risk is too great. After Xiao Ming got it, he immediately put one into the textbook for analysis. If you can figure out the principle of demon refining, its value is no less than the fragment of the fire source. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Magic Planet Online Game. Author, Lanzai Cai Shi Zhen Shen. Chapter 923. If it were just that, Xiao Ming would actually be willing to let Song of Ice and Fire get the god-fighting clothes. More friends mean more ways. The organization of Song of Ice and Fire obviously has many devil fruits, and devil fruits are something that can be strengthened by source energy. And even if the devil fruits are of low integrity, Xiao Ming has a very suitable way to use them. So building a good relationship with them is equivalent to getting a gold mine. However, the information obtained from the I-6th heaven through telepathy made Xiao Ming a little uncomfortable. The I-6th heaven knows much more than he said. Of course, this is normal. Intelligence is also valuable and cannot be revealed easily. Since Xiao Ming did not interrogate him, he could only sense what he was thinking. From his thoughts, Xiao Ming knew some very important information. The first is about the ongoing galactic war. A member of Song of Ice and Fire also participated, but because the I-6th heaven was not in Japan, he was not strong enough and was squeezed out by other reincarnations. However, with this person, the 6th heaven can continue to get news from Japan. Now the Bronze Saint Seiya of Phoenix constellation Ikki has appeared. He led the Dark Saints to fight against Seiya and his men. It seems that they want to snatch the gold cloth. Xiao Ming knows that the name of this reincarnation world is Saint Seiya, but he always thought that the word Seiya was a metaphor. I think it seems to be quite artistic, describing the saints as if they were composed of stars or turned into arrows. Now I know that this is actually a person's name. However, this also clearly points out that the protagonist of this world is the Bronze Saint Seiya named Seiya. Well, the loser counterattacks, which is in line with the routine. Next, the 6th heaven of ice did not recall the things about the galactic war in detail, but simply thought of the plot outline later. Miss Saori Kido, the reincarnation of the goddess Athena, will lead 5 bronze saints to counterattack the Greek sanctuary. Defeat several gold saints and defeat the evil pope. Take back power. Then, it was the turn of the North Star Hilda, who suddenly got up and summoned the god-fighting clothes, appointed 7 god warriors, and went to war with the sanctuary. The reason seemed to be to fight for control of the world and lead the residents of Asgard to a better life. But the 5 bronze saints fought back to Asgard and defeated Hilda and a group of god warriors. Wow, it's amazing. Other god warriors don't know, Xiaoming sees Checkfried every day. This guy is definitely an S-level master. How did the bronze saints defeat him? Forget it, the counterattack of the loser is unreasonable. It's probably a plot kill like a burst. Xiaoming can't help but feel a little sorry for this master. If the 6th heaven of ice wants to get the god-fighting clothes, it must make great contributions to Asgard or cause great damage to Asgard. This is the general rule of the reincarnation space. Either as a friend, exchange things with merit, or as an enemy, rob things with strength. Guess what the 6th heaven of ice is planning? Since he knew who the winner was, of course he would stand on the side of the winner. He planned to turn against the saints at the last minute and help the saints. This was very ungentlemanly. Xiaoming was a friend of the Asgard. He gave you the god-fighting clothes, but you turned against the Asgard. Then Xiaoming would be implicated. This kind of thing was completely thought of by the 6th heaven of ice. But in his mind, this matter was not a problem. First of all, this was a mission world. After completing the mission, everyone would withdraw. Even if the Asgard held a grudge against King Lu, it would not have any impact. Could the people of the Asgard run to the real world to take revenge? Isn't that nonsense? Secondly, he analyzed from the logic of the reincarnator that King Lu had to rely on favors to ask for such a high-end thing as the god-fighting clothes. If successful, the Asgard's favorability towards him would basically be consumed. This actually underestimated the favorability Xiaoming earned in the Asgard. By then, King Lu and the Asgard would no longer be considered friends. The 6th heaven even planned to drag King Lu to turn against the Asgard together. This is called meeting and splitting half, and making money together. Finally, even if King Lu really can't let it go and is unhappy. So what? He didn't violate the contract. He just maximized the benefits. All reincarnations do this. Even if King Lu feels that he has suffered a loss, it is because of insufficient information. Who can he blame? Or King Lu himself? Anyway, Xiaoming didn't feel even a little apology from the heart of the 6th heaven of ice. It was purely a cold deal. And some information is very strange. You know, Yin Xiaoming is still in the Greek sanctuary. Is the Pope evil? He has never felt it. But think about it carefully, Yin Xiaoming has almost no close contact with the Pope. Even the Pope sent someone to notify him of accepting his becoming a saint Ciya. It seems that there is indeed a problem. What's more, since the protagonist of this world is Ciya, justice must be on Ciya's side. It's a bit interesting. In addition, the Greek sanctuary does not actually have dominance over the outside world. It just plays house behind closed doors. It does not interfere with the affairs of the world. Defeating the sanctuary doesn't seem to be a matter of ruling the world. And from Xiaoming's point of view, Hilda has no interest in ruling the world. Even if she thinks the living environment in the Nordic countries is bad, she can just move the residents of the Asgard south. There is no conflict with the sanctuary. Why fight? There is no logic. Besides, the situation in this world has changed. Now the living standard of the Nordic Asgard is quite good under Xiaoming's hard work. Xiaoming even introduced a large number of high-tech things. The level of modernization of Asgard's homes is no less than that of any developed city. With such a life, if Hilda still has the mind to attack the Holy Land, then she is probably out of her mind. I need to pay attention to this aspect and try to avoid a war between the fairy palace and the Holy Land. If there is no war, the conspiracy of the sixth heaven will not succeed. Because each other's background is familiar, and the sixth heaven is willing to pay a good reward. Xiao Tiantian, Xiangqi, and other reincarnations are willing to help. This is the most common way for reincarnations to play. Everyone works together to get benefits from the reincarnation world. Don't easily make enemies with each other. The two of them did not follow Zhang Xiaoming, but just came to this world randomly. They should have been doing the main task in a daze. Unexpectedly, they were lucky and got a chance to meet the sixth heaven who understood the plot. They can also work for him to make money. They are rich, and this kind of good thing is not common. Generally speaking, big guys like the sixth heaven. If there is an action, it must be planned in advance and have enough people. It is not their turn to help. At most, they are given some consolation tips. It is just to prevent them from making trouble. This time, the big boss also had a sudden impulse and forced the action. That's why they were hired at a high price. They are so lucky. I will burn 2 incense sticks when I go back and thank the gods for their blessings. Magic Planet Online Game. Author, Lanzai Cai Shi Zhen Shen. Chapter 924. Thump, thump, thump. A black shadow drifted towards Green Xiaoming at high speed, and suddenly stopped a few meters in front of Xiaoming. Xiaoming's thoughts were interrupted. Needless to say, it was Xiaojia's transformed armored bulletproof car. The children in the fairy palace like the feeling of the car stopping suddenly. They are also most willing to use this trick to scare people. In this icy fairy palace, everything is slippery. Only transformers like Xiaojia can do it here. After the car stopped steadily, Freya and several children jumped out and rushed to Green Xiaoming. Big brother, we want to play the roller coaster. All the children inside and outside the car were shouting. The roller coaster is an entertainment project that Xiaoming just developed for the children a few days ago. Unlike the real roller coaster, Xiaoming's roller coaster is a closed type, and the body and track are made of ice. Here, there is no need to worry about melting. The ice car is divided into many sections, and each section is closed. Of course, this closure will definitely not seal off all the air, there are still many vents. How do passengers get in? It's very simple. Xiaoming can use alchemy to open the hole, let the children in, and then close it. It doesn't matter if Xiaoming is not there. There are many powerful Nordic warriors, and many of them can use ice-freezing air. Just open a hole, let the passengers in, and then seal it with cold air. Not only the strongest warriors, but many ordinary warriors can do it. The fully transparent ice car can fully ensure safety while allowing children to see the surrounding scenery in all directions. Not only children like it, but also the residents of the fairy palace like it. However, there is also a problem. This roller coaster is not driven by machinery, but the potential energy of falling from a high place is converted into the kinetic energy of the roller coaster movement. The car and the track are made of ice, and the friction is very small. It's fun, but also very troublesome. Because after each play, the ice car must be disassembled section by section, and then lifted to a high place and reassembled. This hard work naturally fell on the warriors. The warriors of the fairy palace regarded this as an exercise and enjoyed it. Xiaoming felt that he had arranged it well. The fairy palace could operate the roller coaster by itself. Even if there were skilled craftsmen, more roller coasters could be built. He didn't understand why these children came to him again. Hearing King Lu's question, Freya's mouth was flat and she almost cried. Big brother, only one car is too few. There are so many people queuing. Sister said. Woo, 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 she really cried. Sister said that we have always played, and we should let others play. Wow, we have nothing to play. When she cried, The other children also cried. In fact, it was all Xiaoming who spoiled them. In the past, the children of the fairy palace were very sensible. Even if they were not well fed or clothed, they would not make a fuss. Not to mention for some toys. Since Xiaoming's large-scale construction and production, the life in the fairy palace has become better and better, and the children have become more and more unreasonable. Even Freya, who was originally a very good child, has learned to be bad. Isn't it true? Xiaoming didn't feel any sadness from them. They were just acting for him. It's possible to queue up for the roller coaster. But the residents of Fairy Palace will definitely let these children play first. So they came to him for only one reason, that is, they are tired of the old and love the new. After a few days, they are tired of the roller coaster and want something new. Under the leadership of Freya, they came to Xiaoming collectively. The children want to save face, and the real reason is too embarrassing to say, so they blame the adults. Xiaoming couldn't do anything about these little guys. At first, he just wanted to enrich the children's entertainment life. So he got some children's amusement park projects for them to play. As a result, he didn't expect to dig a big hole for himself. After taking out new toys several times, the children have become dependent on him. Every few days, they come to ask for new toys. After a few times, almost all the fun things in Xiaoming's memory are emptied. If it doesn't work, Xiaoming is ready to teach them to play mahjong. But he is afraid that he will really teach these children bad things. Uncle Dilru caught a big polar bear, it's so cool to ride on it. At this time, a child's unintentional words reminded Xiaoming. By the way, I feel sad for Dilru for 3 seconds. He is only about 20 years old this year, but he looks a little old, and his height of 2.34 meters is too oppressive. No wonder the children call him uncle. Dilru riding a big polar bear must be because of the use of the soldier creature controller. With a large number of controllers provided by Xiaoming, the warriors of the fairy palace are proud to conquer a powerful ice creature. As one of the best warriors of the fairy palace, it is not surprising that the giant Dilru conquered a huge polar bear. With his body shape, ordinary polar bears can't carry him. Xiaoming can imagine how strong the polar bear is. The children envy the warriors riding ice creatures. But the fairy palace is reluctant to use the controller to make pets for the children anyway. Although Xiaoming gave the fairy palace a lot of controllers. However, they don't know how to make this thing themselves. One less is one less. Therefore, the Asgard would not use it easily. The warriors would defeat a stronger creature by themselves and drag it back. Only then would the Asgard give them a controller to try. Others were not qualified to use it. Not to mention these children. So Xiaoming decided to give each of these children a small animal as a pet. It doesn't have to be a rideable animal. How could it be difficult for Xiaoming to tame wild animals? After an hour or so, each child got a pet. Most of the girls got young Arctic foxes and Arctic hares. The snow-white fur is extremely beautiful, and the little girls love it. The boys' pets are naturally different. Some are polar bear cubs, some are dire wolf cubs, and some are dogs. If these creatures can be domesticated for a long time, they will also be of great help to the fairy palace. And pets are generally never boring. Once they develop feelings for each other, they will even be inseparable. In this way, Xiaoming can finally get rid of these naughty kids. These little guys are really too troublesome. Especially their elders, they are even more hateful. They are eager to push the trouble to Xiaoming. They even encourage the children to come and play with their big brothers every day. They are not afraid that their children will be abducted. They are so irresponsible. Xiaoming expressed his strong contempt. In addition, Xiaoming also made small armor and weapons in the style of elves for all the children, which were very beautiful but had no combat power. Because they were so beautiful, even the girls liked them very much. From then on, Freya stopped wearing her skirt. Every day, she wore the elf armor and took the children to run around the fairy palace, spreading laughter in every corner. Magic Planet Online Game. Author, Lanzai Cai Shi Zhen Shen. Chapter 925. Days passed, and the Nordic fairy palace was still quiet and peaceful, with no intention of starting a war. Lu Xiaoming was paying attention to the actions of I-Sixth Heaven and others. However, these people did not seem to make any big moves. They just observed and recorded the terrain of various places while completing the tasks of the fairy palace, probably preparing for the future war. In the Greek sanctuary, in the first Maiden Palace, the position where Yin Xiaoming was meditating was getting closer and closer to Shaka. It seemed to indicate that his realm was also improving step by step. With Shaka, many things happened in the sanctuary, but they did not affect the first Maiden Palace. Similarly, Yin Xiaoming could not conduct reconnaissance on the outside world. Maybe sending a few clones and mind beasts out to take a look. But considering that there are many reincarnations in the sanctuary, Xiaoming gave up this idea that might expose his strength. In the underwater temple, Huang Xiaoming turned into a symbiote and parasitized General Heilong. He was taking the mermaid Tethys, one of the sea warriors, for special training under the sea. It was called special training, but it was actually playing. How to say it, Tethys is only a teenager, not much older than Freya. Although she is wearing a scaled coat and her combat power has reached B level, she is still a child at heart. The difference between her and Freya is her attitude towards Xiaoming. Because Green Xiaoming has many tricks, Freya often sticks to Green Xiaoming and looks for Xiaoming several times a day. Tethys is more in awe of General Heilong. Although she occasionally acts like a spoiled child, that is not the norm. Most of the time she has to be obedient. Therefore, when Xiaoming doesn't pay much attention to her, she often plays away by herself. Tethys is an intelligence officer and is very familiar with the seabed. No matter how far she runs, she can always come back to find General Heilong. She won't get lost. Seeing that Xiaoming doesn't pay much attention to her, she becomes more and more courageous, and sometimes she can't be seen for 2 or 3 days. Her strength is strong enough, and Xiaoming doesn't worry about her being bullied at all. Just let her go. He doesn't even bother to mark her. In fact, it is better if she is often away. Huang Xiaoming can concentrate on dealing with the soul of General Heilong in Tsukuyomi. After all, Xiaoming's realm is now blessed by Shaka, and General Heilong is getting weaker and weaker in Tsukuyomi. In fact, he also has many loopholes in his spirit. So, one day, his mental defense was completely broken. It is not quite accurate to say this. It should be said that he realized the problem in his spirit and successfully repaired it. This repair work was completed in the Tsukuyomi space, so his secret was also seen through by Xiaoming. It turns out that he even made up the name Heilong casually. In fact, his name is Canaan, and he is one of the Gemini Gold Saints. Seeing such a great development, Xiaoming was very excited and took out a bag of snacks to eat. It felt like seeing gossip news. The Gold Saint ran to the underwater temple to be the leader of the sea warriors. It's so magical. I must see it. This is the thing. The Gemini Gold Saint has always chosen from the twin brothers. The 2 brothers in this life are Saga and Canaan. The elder brother Saga is kind and upright, and is deeply loved by the people. He became the Gemini Gold Saint. Saga is also known as the incarnation of God and is a strong candidate for the Pope. The younger brother Canaan has a similar appearance to his brother and comparable strength. But his character is evil. The elder brother is an angel and the younger brother is a devil. Of course, this statement is not accurate. The elder brother Saga, who appears to be an angel, hides a devil deep in his heart. And the younger brother Canaan, who appears to be a devil, also lives an angel deep in his heart. This pair of brothers is simply a pair of deep well ice with dual personalities. The incident happened 13 years ago, when the little girl who was the reincarnation of the goddess Athena was still in her infancy. Canaan instigated his brother Saga to kill the goddess, kill the Pope, and rule the sanctuary. At that time, the kind-hearted Saga was very angry and locked Canaan in a water dungeon under Cape Slio. He had to endure the suffering of being submerged by the sea every day, and could only escape with the power of God. However, Canaan's instigation awakened the evil in Saga's heart. Later, the old pope passed the papacy to Sagittarius's gold saint Ialos. This caused Saga to completely turn evil. Not only did he kill the pope, he also wanted to kill the goddess. Fortunately, Ialos stopped him in time and escaped from the sanctuary with the goddess who was still a baby. Since then, Saga has pretended to be the pope to rule the sanctuary, and framed Ialos as a traitor who killed the goddess. He sent Capricorn Shura to hunt Ialos down. Ialos was seriously injured in the battle with Shura. Before he died, he entrusted Athena and the Sagittarius gold cloth to Mitsumasa Kido, the founder of the Gurudhu group, the richest man in Asia who was traveling in Europe. Mitsumasa Kido adopted Athena and named her Saori Kido. At the same time, 100 orphans were sent to various places to receive Saint Seiya training. Only then did the current story come about. During his imprisonment, Garland was on the verge of life and death many times. Whenever Garland felt desperate, he was saved from the brink of death by an indescribable warm microcosm. Later, Garland accidentally released the soul of the sealed Poseidon in the rock prison, escaped with the help of the power of the sea god, and encouraged Poseidon to go to war with Athena. At that time, Poseidon asked him his name, and he suddenly called himself Sea Dragon. He was appointed by Poseidon as the head of the 7 generals of the sea warriors. Then the soul of the sea god Poseidon reincarnated into Julian Solo and fell asleep, and Garland took control of the command of the sea world in the name of Poseidon. Garin is ambitious and has no fear of God. He took the opportunity to control the sea god who has not yet fully awakened with the phantom demon Emperor Fist. He is ready to implement his little conspiracy. The plan is to control the sea god to sneak attack the North Star Hilda and let the Asgard and the sanctuary go to war. When both sides are defeated, the sea warriors will reap the benefits, clean up the mess, and rule the world. Now the truth is out. It seems that the plot that the 6th heaven of ice knows is related to this kid Garin. Saga fell into evil because he was bewitched by Garin. The Asgard and the Undersea Temple went to war with the sanctuary one after another because Garin controlled the sea god. Almost everything happened because of him. Even the 6th heaven of ice does not know these secrets. The moment of revealing the secret is usually in the final and highest level battle. In this case, it is difficult for the reincarnation to participate. In addition, it is still early now, and the Asgard and the seabed have not yet started the war. Only Saga's matter is irreversible. Before Garland's ambition was put into action, he was unlucky enough to run into Zhang Xiaoming. Being able to control the semi-awakened sea god, Garland's strength is very strong. Even an S-level reincarnator might be controlled by him. Xiaoming was able to achieve a counterattack entirely because of his special nature. If it were someone else, he would have been controlled long ago. So the question is, what should Xiaoming do next? You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Magic Planet Online Game. Author, Lanzai Cai Shi Zhen Shen. Chapter 926. Now it can be said that what Xiaoming was most worried about has happened. General Heilong, that is, Garland, made up for the deficiency of his mental power in the Tsukuyomi space and achieved a breakthrough. After such a long time, he was still in a weak state because a considerable part of his mental power was gnawed by Tsukuyomi. However, his soul core has become extremely tough and even invulnerable. Although Xiaoming can continue to gnaw Garland's mental power now, there is no possibility of eating him. As time goes by, Garland will gradually resist the erosion of Tsukuyomi and will inevitably kill Xiaoming in the end. It seems that the most sensible way at present is to throw this guy's soul out quickly. Then run away as far as you can. However, things are not that simple. A soul cannot be imprisoned or abandoned casually. In fact, the cause of this time was Garland's invasion of Xiaoming's spiritual world, and Xiaoming was passively defending and counter-attacking. So Garland himself must be willing to leave. Even Zhang Xiaoming can see the situation clearly, so Garland can naturally see it clearly. Now that he has won, will he be willing to leave? Xiaoming would not be willing to leave anyway. Xiaoming was overwhelmed. He didn't know whether asking Shaka for help could solve the problem, or asking Hilda for help might also work. Emotionally speaking, Hilda might be more willing to help. Just as he was thinking about it, in the world of Tsukuyomi, Kanan suddenly spoke. The so-called speaking is to communicate with the spirit. Mr. Huang, don't worry, I don't have any idea of fighting back against you. Just give me my body back. Kanan's soul has been trapped in the world of Tsukuyomi for so long, Xiaoming is quite familiar with him. He is actually telling the truth now. Xiaoming was a little confused. This doesn't seem to fit your personality, big brother. Aren't you a bad person? You used to do bad things. Why would you give up such a good opportunity? Sensing Xiaoming's doubts, Kanan simply let go of his mental defense to show Xiaoming, that's it. When Kanan was imprisoned in the water dungeon under Cape Slio, he had to endure pain every day. Every time, it was a warm little universe that saved him. Later, after he escaped, he always thought that it was the little universe of the Sea King. After all, the Sea King was also sealed nearby at that time. It was normal for brothers in distress to support and use each other. In fact, he later felt that there was a big difference between saving his own little universe and Poseidon's little universe. However, he was already overwhelmed by ambition and did not think about this matter carefully at all. It was not until Kanan was imprisoned by Xiaoming with Tsukuyomi that he had time to think carefully about the past and realized that it was Athena's little universe that saved him. So Kanan suddenly woke up and realized his previous sins, and decided to become a competent goddess saint again. This is the character setting of the brothers Saga and Kanan. Their spirits have defects in their eyes, resulting in their extremely strong strength, but their shortcomings are also very obvious. At the same time, as the saints of the goddess Athena, their defects can only be redeemed by believing in Athena again. Of course, if a god who is several times more powerful than Athena snatches Kanan away, it seems possible. But Xiaoming is definitely far from qualified. In other words, if it weren't for Garland's change of heart, his spirit would not be repaired and could only be slowly destroyed by Tsukuyomi. Once Garland's spiritual power is repaired, it means that he has been redeemed and he is no longer a bad guy. In any case, Xiaoming is actually very safe. Garland felt that Mr. Huang was also a person in the good camp, so he was unwilling to destroy Xiaoming's spiritual world. If it were another evil person, Garland would definitely kill him without negotiation. Even if Garland became good, he would still be a Saint Seiya who was decisive in killing, not a good guy. In this case, Xiaoming was relieved. He immediately released Garland's soul back into his body, and he also lifted the parasitism on Garland's body and transformed back to Huang Xiaoming's form. Garland and Huang Xiaoming must have had a long heart-to-heart talk. But now something big happened to Yin Xiaoming, so let's turn our attention to him first. Xiaoming himself didn't really realize that Garland had repaired his spiritual deficiencies in his own Tsukuyomi world. Xiaoming also felt this process. Although it can only be regarded as a bystander, this experience is a strong improvement for Xiaoming's mental strength. At the same time, he parasitized the body of Garu, one of the strongest gold saints, and with the characteristics of the symbiont, he also copied a lot of powerful genes to himself. If Xiaoming had better talent, he might be able to comprehend the seventh sense of the microcosm at this moment. Then he would have the strength equivalent to that of a gold saint. Once Xiaoming becomes a gold saint, he will never be that kind of A-level counterfeit. At least he will be quasi-S level. Even Garu could not have expected this situation, but Shaka, who was far away in the first girl palace, felt it from Yin Xiaoming's mental state. With a thought, he took Yin Xiaoming directly to another place, the solid twin trees garden located next to the first girl palace. The two of them meditated under the solid twin trees. In the legend of this world, the Buddha ascended to heaven under the solid twin trees. Shaka has been able to talk to the Buddha since he was a child, and his spiritual cultivation is actually from Buddhism. I don't know how he became the saint of the goddess Athena. It's not a system at all. Is it business outsourcing? Anyway, Shaka also planted the twin solid trees next to his first female palace. This is the most suitable place to comprehend the microcosm. Shaka felt that Yin Xiaoming was good. I don't know why, but his spiritual realm has improved by leaps and bounds. I thought Xiaoming had entered a state of enlightenment. Opportunities are rare, and talents are rare, so Shaka transferred Yin Xiaoming to the solid twin trees garden. Use the environment here to help Xiaoming comprehend. Maybe Xiaoming can comprehend the seventh sense of the microcosm, and then he can become a gold saint. It just so happens that the gold saints are not complete now, so it's not bad to join such a guy with explosive microcosm energy. The two of them have been meditating and comprehending for such a long time, and Shaka thinks he still knows the character of the leader very well. In Shaka's view, the leader can basically be regarded as a person in the good camp. The disadvantage is that he is afraid of death and loves leisure. Although he is willing to do good things, he does not have the courage to sacrifice himself. He is definitely unwilling to do bad things. This kind of character destined the leader to not become an outstanding and noble gold saint. At most, he was just a qualified gold saint who could fight in favorable situations. Although not satisfactory, in Shaka's eyes, he was much better than the gold saints of Cancer and Pisces. We can't ask for too much, right? However, what Xiaoming really realized under the twin solid trees was beyond Shaka's expectations. Magic Planet Online Game. Author, Lanzai Cai Shi Zhen Shen. Chapter 927. Yin Xiaoming caught a glimpse of the strange feeling he had comprehended, and pursued it, only to find himself in a very strange place. Xiaoming was too lazy to complain about his time travel physique. He could travel through time even by sitting in meditation. What kind of place is this? Dark sky, dark world, everything can be seen clearly without light. The terrain is the same as on Earth, with mountains, canyons, wilderness, but there is no sign of life. All he saw were some dead souls. Judging from the strong smell of death, this place is probably, maybe a place like hell. According to the mythology system of this world, it is probably the territory of Hades, the god of the underworld. He clearly entered the underworld in his physical body. Is this something that should happen normally? Xiaoming was full of doubts. Fortunately, Shaka, with his powerful ability, sent him a telepathic message to clear his doubts. After that, there was no sound. Shaka told him that the leader, Xiaoming, surpassed the seventh sense of the microcosm and directly comprehended the eighth sense of the microcosm, also known as Alaya consciousness. Comprehending Alaya consciousness, one can cross the boundary between life and death. One can enter and exit the underworld alive, and is not bound by the laws of the underworld. That is why Xiaoming will enter the underworld alive. As for whether Xiaoming can return to the human world alive, it is hard to say. That requires a strong spatial ability. Shaka can certainly do it, but Xiaoming's strength is too far behind. Finally, Shaka said good luck. Getting lost in the underworld is not fun. Getting lost is the last thing Xiaoming has to worry about. Because in Xiaoming's feeling, the blockade of the underworld on space is far less than that of the demon locking tower. Both Guangmingding and Kunlun are open. It is too easy for Yin Xiaoming to leave. Of course, Xiaoming will not leave the underworld at the first time. Because he knows very well that he has not really comprehended Alaya consciousness. At least not completely. The reason why he came to the underworld. One reason is that Shaka, the twin trees of Sala, and Garland have blessed Xiaoming in terms of spiritual power and realm. Another important reason is that Xiaoming has achieved great success in the magic of the dead. To some extent, Xiaoming and the dead have very similar physiques. So the underworld will not reject him. In fact, there is a third hidden reason, which also accounts for a large proportion, but Xiaoming has not realized it yet. This means that if he leaves this time, Xiaoming may not be able to come to the underworld again next time. After all, he has not really realized the Alaya consciousness. Anyway, he can leave at any time, so Yin Xiaoming decided to wander around in the underworld. See if there is anything fun. And there is a benefit in the underworld. Xiaoming feels that his understanding of the magic of the dead is getting deeper and deeper, and at the same time, his understanding of the underworld is getting deeper and deeper. There is a feeling that if he stays in the underworld for a long enough time, he can come and go freely even if he has not realized the eighth sense. Of course, Xiaoming needs to act carefully. In the vast underworld, Xiaoming only dared to use the telekinesis circle, but not the mental scan. No, this Gata is the territory of Hades, the king of the underworld. Although Hades's microcosm has not been felt yet. Xiaoming estimated that Hades was similar to the Sea King and the goddess at the moment, and they were probably in a state of not fully awakening. The underworld is extremely vast, so Hades would ignore Xiaoming's ant-like existence. But if Xiaoming used mental power to scan the underworld on a large scale, it would be a blatant provocation. Let alone Hades himself, even if he sent a few of his generals to fight, Xiaoming would not be able to deal with it. Xiaoming would not believe that Hades' subordinates had no existence comparable to the Golden Saints, no matter how naive he was. So Xiaoming found a big mountain nearby, and found an extremely hidden cave in the mountain. Xiaoming repaired himself and continued to meditate in the cave. Xiaoming's repair was not just cleaning for a living. He used alchemy to make the cave go deep into the belly of the mountain, even under the earth, and sealed the entrance of the cave. Make sure no one can break in by mistake. This will make him feel more at ease. In addition, he sent 3 groups of 9-7 shadow clone, disguised as undead, to explore the underworld. As long as you are careful, it should be difficult to trace him with the characteristics of the 7 shadow clone. At the same time, in the underwater temple, Garland and Huang Xiaoming were also discussing things. The cruel question is, what should Garland do next? Now that he has changed his ways, it is impossible for him to continue to oppose the goddess. On the contrary, he should repay the goddess for saving his life. But Garland thought that the reincarnated goddess should have been killed by his brother Saga. Now he can only go back and fight with his brother to avenge the goddess. Fortunately, Xiaoming got the subsequent plot information from the 6th heaven of ice. Knowing that the goddess is not dead, she will counterattack the sanctuary soon. Xiaoming felt that with Garland's strength, even if he went to take revenge, he might not be the opponent of so many gold saints. It's just to seek death. So Xiaoming suggested that we wait until the goddess goes to war against the Greek sanctuary. Then we can join in and contribute, the effect should be better. In addition, Xiaoming also proposed a new idea. According to the intelligence, the goddess will definitely be able to defeat Saga and conquer the sanctuary. Instead of participating in the battle in the sanctuary, it is better to stay in the underwater temple as a spy. Now, Poseidon, the king of the sea, has been bewitched by him and is ready to go to war with the sanctuary. If Garland leaves like this, Poseidon is likely to continue with the previous plan. If the two sides fight, the sanctuary will definitely suffer losses. Even if he leaves, he should clean up this mess first. Xiaoming thinks he is more suitable to stay at the bottom of the sea and continue to be the general of the sea dragon, and try to delay the war between the two sides. In particular, don't let Poseidon sneak attack Hilda again. In this way, the innocent Nordic fairy palace can also escape and not go to war with the sanctuary. This is the real way to repay a favor. As for the excuse, Huang Xiaoming hadn't made it up yet. However, Yin Xiaoming just went to the underworld. Now the excuse is in front of him. Xiaoming believes that since the underworld has appeared in this world, then there is no doubt that Hades, the king of the underworld, will definitely fight with the goddess Athena. Otherwise, there is no need to set up such a force. As long as Garland tells Poseidon that Hades, the king of the underworld, is ambitious and intends to defeat all human forces and rule the world. The Greek sanctuary, the underwater temple, and the Nordic fairy palace are all targets that Hades wants to eliminate. I believe Poseidon will make the right decision. That is to say, sit on the mountain and watch the tigers fight. Let the sanctuary and the underworld fight each other to a loss. Then the undersea temple will take advantage and wipe them all out. Then Poseidon will not only rule the world, but also the underworld. This is in line with the temperament of the Sea King. As for whether the Sea King can take advantage of the situation in the end, it depends on how well Garland's infernal affairs skills are used. Magic Planet Online Game. Author, Lanzai Cai Shi Zhen Shen. Chapter 928. On this day, Hilda, the queen of the Nordic Asgard, was praying under the statue of Odin. Little red and little green ones accompany them on both sides. Recently, the relationship between the great god Odin and the Nordic Asgard has been quite good. Before, the residents of Asgard had always lived a very difficult life. Although they believe in Odin, they inevitably have some complaints deep down in their hearts. This is something that even Odin's spokesperson Saluda is unable to avoid. And this little hesitation caused a gap between them and the great god Odin. The environment in Northern Europe has become even worse. If things continue like this in the long run, the two sides may drift apart and become estranged from each other. Perhaps in a few hundred years, Odin will completely lose Asgard's belief in him. At this time, a strange person like King Lu Xiaoming, suddenly appeared. He and his followers used some strange skills to bring Asgard back to life in a short period of time. Life in the Nordic Asgard can be said to change day by day. In just a few months, this place has become a paradise. Let everyone have a happy smile on their face. Because at this time, everyone still believed in Odin. So everyone regarded King Lu as the messenger Odin who heard everyone's prayers and sent to save the fairy palace. While I was extremely grateful to Xiaoming, my faith in Odin also skyrocketed. Such a high level of faith gave Odin a reply. The environment in Immortal Palace also began to improve. Both parties entered into a virtuous cycle. All these are the changes brought about by Lu Xiaoming. Whether it is Immortal Palace or Odin, King Lu's senses are very good. Odin actually acquiesced to King Lu's noble status in the fairy palace. Although it can't be considered a spokesperson, it's almost the same. At least King Lu did some things better than Saluda. Anyone who prays to Odin can vaguely feel it. Otherwise, there would be no treasure like the Asgard ring. However, Xiaoming does not understand these tricks in faith. There is no intention to fight for power and gain. Saluda is a kind queen, she actually doesn't mind Odin having another spokesperson in Asgard. However, when she saw that King Lu did not regard himself as a spokesperson at all, nor did he compete for power, and he was so kind to his sister Freya, she was so doted on her. Her favorability towards Prince Lu was rising steadily. At the same time, she thought this was the meaning of the great god Odin, and her faith in Odin was equally high. I also became more sincere in my prayers. Odin would give her some responses from time to time to improve her strength. Something unexpected happened today. Suddenly, an extremely powerful microcosm descended on Valhalla. Fortunately, this microcosm did not come with any malicious intent. So not only Saluda is fine, but so are Little Red and Little Green. She was so frightened that she almost showed her natural body. Who, in the fairy palace, under the statue of Odin, Saluda's small universe is in its strongest state, but she is not afraid. I am Poseidon, the king of the sea. A majestic voice came from the small universe. Of course, the small universe does not make a sound, it is an alternative form of spiritual communication. At this moment, Xiao Ming's attention also shifted to experience God's small universe. Now Xiao Ming and Xiao Hong and Xiao Lu are very, very familiar with each other. They don't need skills like clones. Through telepathy, their spirits can attach to them. Feel the vast universe of Poseidon. Xiao Ming was filled with admiration. God's title is indeed not in vain. His little universe really crushes all saint CEs, God CEs, and CCEs. Moreover, Poseidon's small universe is still weakened at this moment. Now Julian, the reincarnation of Poseidon, has not grown up yet, and he is still controlled by Garin to a certain extent. The most important thing is that he came to the Immortal Palace this time not for a sneak attack, but for fair and above-board negotiations, so he chose to communicate with Saluda under the statue of Odin. This place is the place that god Odin pays the most attention to in Immortal Palace. Poseidon's small universe is not that strong here. Instead, the small universe of Polaris Saluda is at its peak. You can compete with it? This is also Poseidon's way of expressing his sincerity. Under Odin's witness, negotiate with Saluda. Make your words appear more honest. In the original work, Poseidon chose the seaside for his sneak attack on Hilda. That was where Poseidon himself was relatively strong. The content of the negotiation was naturally the idea Xiao Ming gave to Galen. Poseidon told Hilda that Hades, the king of Hades, was ready to move towards the ground. Pluto has 108 underworld fighters and 2 gods, who are extremely powerful. Whether it is the Greek sanctuary, the Nordic fairy palace, or the underwater temple, they are all targets of the underworld's attack. Everyone must unite to compete with the underworld. The 7 generals of the sea fighters are already in place, and Poseidon hopes that Hilda will awaken all the god fighters' god clothes, so that the 2 sides will watch and help each other in the future. Naturally, Hilda had to be given time to think about such a matter. After the exchange with the Emperor of the Sea, his small universe evacuated. After listening to Poseidon's words, Xiao Ming couldn't help but give Garin 666 likes. This guy moves so fast. It's so awesome, isn't it? At the bottom of the sea, Galen separated with Didis and Huang Xiaoming, which was only a few days ago. I didn't expect that he would fool Poseidon so quickly. We can even get Neptune and Saluda to cooperate, which is awesome. How did Xiaoming know that Galion could indeed exert influence on the Poseidon who had not yet fully awakened? But this time, it can only be said that it was a mistake. When Garland lied to Poseidon, Poseidon was in a confused and half-believing state. Although Xiaoming and Garland made up the story that Hades was going to invade the human world, it was unexpectedly in line with the facts. The 2 of them didn't know the strength of the underworld, but Poseidon knew it clearly. When Garland said this, Poseidon immediately remembered it. So the matter with the Nordic fairy palace was actually a decision made by Poseidon himself. He could no longer be considered to be bewitched by Garland. Poseidon was very clear about the powerful strength of Hades. Garland asked him to sit on the mountain and watch the tiger fight, but he decided to gather the power of the 3 families and jointly fight against Hades. Of course, Hilda couldn't trust Poseidon completely, so she prayed to the great god Odin, and she did get a positive response from the great god Odin. allowed her to awaken the 7 exclusive armors of the god warriors, the god fighting clothes. Lead the god warriors and the Nordic fairy palace to fight against Hades. Hilda held a black spear, and a powerful microcosm burst out of her body, and the light shot up into the sky. On the ice field of Asgard, there were 7 places that echoed her from afar. They were arranged in the shape of the Big Dipper. Those were 7 god-fighting clothes inlaid with Odin's sapphires. They were given to 7 powerful and loyal warriors in Asgard. The 7 god warriors chosen by Hilda put on their respective god-fighting clothes, knelt on one knee in front of Hilda, and accepted the instructions of the queen. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Magic Planet Online Game. Author, Lanzai Cai Shi Zhen Shen. Chapter 929. Saluda first conveyed Odin's instructions and the Sea Emperor Poseidon's intention to form an alliance to the 7 god warriors. Then it was announced that from now on, the Immortal Palace would collectively prepare for war. Be ready for war with the underworld at any time. Several divine warriors couldn't help being surprised when they heard this. After hearing about Hades's ambition, everyone was furious. Life in Asgard has just gotten better. At this critical moment when happiness comes to Asgard, why does Hades, the king of Hades, show up to disrupt the situation? MMP, fight him. For the happy life of all residents of Asgard, and for the next generation to grow up in peace and happiness. The divine warriors are furious and determined to fight the evil forces to the end. These 7 divine warriors canonized by Hilda are: the first one, the 2-headed dragon of the Alpha star Tiantia star god fighter, Checkfried. Second place, Beta star Tiantian star god fighter 8-legged horse Hagen. The third place is the Gamma star dimensional star god fighter giant serpent Delu. The fourth place is Crystal Skull, the fighter of the Delta star heavenly power star god, King Lu. Fifth place, Epsilon star Yuhang star god fighter Sirius Fenrir. Sixth place, Zeta star Qiang star god fighter saber-toothed tiger Hido. The seventh place is Mi Yaimei, the warrior of the ETA star shaking light star god. There seems to be something strange mixed in. King Lu Xiaoming, who knelt down in front of Saluda, also looked confused. WTF, what the hell is this? Saluda really summoned the god fighter and canonized 7 god warriors, but why am I there? I haven't come to ask for it yet. Why? This is actually the case. The person who was supposed to obtain the heavenly power star god's battle robe was called Alliabilisi. The Arubalisai family is a famous family that has served the Norse god Odin for generations. Alliabilisi 19 of this generation is powerful and resourceful, and is known as the wisest man in Immortal Palace. However, he is too self-centered and ambitious, and even has the idea of replacing Hilda. Therefore, he has never gained the trust of Queen Saluda. If it were in the past, because Alliabilisi's strength and reputation were too high, Saluda might have had to consecrate him to a god's battlesuit. After all, Alliabilisi is also one of the outstanding figures in Asgard. He has quite a status in the Immortal Palace, so not being canonized is a bit unjustifiable. However, in this world, due to the sudden emergence of King Lu, Saluda can justifiably appoint King Lu as the champion of the Tianquan star god, and appoint Alliabilisi to assist King Lu. No one would object. Perfectly solved this problem. Compared with King Lu's reputation, Alliabilisi's little family reputation is far behind. Originally, in terms of strength, Xiaoming was not at the level of a golden saint, nor could he be a canonized divine warrior. But things are different now. Follow Shaka to understand the small universe. Usually check Fried's teachings, not part of Garen's mental power. The bonuses obtained during the parasitic galleons, the insights brought by being in the underworld, plus the bonuses of the Asgard ring, etc. Some of these bonuses are permanent and some are temporary. Taken together, it has greatly improved Xiaoming. This makes his current combat power roughly equivalent to that of the weakest among the Golden Saints. This is enough qualifications to assume the position of Divine Warrior. Although it is still a bit weak, it is a qualitative leap. Maybe he can't defeat another Golden Saint, but Xiaoming has 3 bodies and souls. As long as they can wear uniforms of the same level and fight 3 against 1, ordinary Golden Saints really can't defeat him. Let's talk about Aliability. He was named the assistant to King Lu. In the eyes of the residents of Immortal Palace, this was a supreme honor. Even 2 or 3 of the divine warriors were very envious and congratulated him one after another. Aliability was on the verge of crying but had no tears. Congratulations to the devil. He doesn't want to be an auxiliary officer. Becoming a god warrior, wearing a god's battle suit, and gaining a strong combat power bonus is the most important thing. Prince Lu, Aliability, Queen Saluda called their names. The 2 of them hurriedly saluted and responded, "My subordinate is here, Sir Hilda. I order you 2 to set off immediately, go to the undersea temple, meet with Lord Poseidon, and convey the intention of the Nordic Asgard to form an alliance with the undersea temple. Do you understand?" Upon hearing this appointment, several other divine warriors nodded in agreement. King Lu has sufficient status, and Aliability is both civil and military. The cooperation between these 2 people is indeed the most suitable messenger. Yes. Sir Hilda. The 2 of them took orders at the same time. To be honest, Xiaoming didn't really want to go. He already had Huang Xiaoming in the undersea temple. Because of Garen's early recovery, Xiaoming's substitute was not exposed. Now Huang Xiaoming and his entourage have returned to their original place and participated in daily training and work on the seabed. At this time, getting together is a waste. Might as well stay in Asgard. Just when Xiaoming was about to refuse but felt embarrassed, he received a secret transmission from Saluda. Aliability has evil intentions and may sneak attack you. Please be careful. If he does sneak attack, you don't have to hold back when you fight back. Hearing this, Xiaoming was even more confused. Suddenly, I realized how even a kind-hearted person like Queen Saluda could have such a clever way of playing power. The meaning of what he said just now was not to remind himself to be careful. It was clearly to let him find an opportunity to kill Aliability. And it has to be completed on the way to the undersea temple this time. Even if Xiaoming doesn't want to do it, it won't work. Because Xiaoming generally knows what Aliability is like. He does have evil intentions. As early as the beginning, when Green Xiaoming began to help the fairy palace improve the quality of life, Alberich had come to test Xiaoming. At that time, Xiaoming felt uncomfortable when he saw his life energy. It was just that he was an A-level master, and Xiaoming's telepathy could not play the greatest role. He could only detect that he was insidious and treacherous, and had bad intentions. Fortunately, at that time, Checkfried was often by Xiaoming's side, and Alberich could not find a suitable opportunity to attack. Besides, it was difficult to distinguish between the enemy and us at that time. He couldn't figure out the position of King Lu, so he retreated. This time, he will not be confused about the enemy and us again. Just as Hilda said, he may have bad intentions towards him. Coupled with the temptation of the god-fighting clothes. This battle is almost inevitable. If he can kill Xiaoming and grab the god-fighting clothes. As long as he makes up a perfect lie. It will be easy to get the position of the god-fighter. This time, serving as an envoy is probably also a serious test for Xiaoming. If Xiaoming, who has become a god warrior, cannot protect himself, then he will not be qualified to continue wearing the god warrior clothes. It is estimated that Checkfried is unlikely to come to support him this time. It is possible to send someone to monitor from a distance. Xiaoming's brain began to work at a high speed. Thinking about how to solve the problem. Magic Planet Online Game. Author, Lanzai Cai Shi Zhen Shen. Chapter 930. On the vast ice field of the Nordic Asgard, there is a forbidden place of Asgard. There is a huge abyss, like a pit, with a strong air vortex at the entrance, called the Dark Pool. According to legend, the Dark Pool leads to a country of disaster and evil. The people of the Nordic Asgard are not allowed to approach there. The great god Odin told Hilda that it was actually the path to the temple of Poseidon under the sea. Of course, you can't just go to the territory of another god. Over time, it became an evil place through word of mouth. The relationship between Odin and Poseidon is at most in opposition. Occasionally fighting a few times, it seems that they are not enemies, let alone the distinction between justice and evil. This is where Xiaoming and Alberich are going. At the speed of the two, it will take about 10 hours to get there. They made an agreement and went home to pack their luggage. 1 hour later, they gathered outside the temple of Odin and set off. An hour later, Alyabalisi was surprised to find that King Lu did not come alone, but brought 3 residents who had recently migrated to the fairy palace. There have been many immigrants in the fairy palace recently, and there are many strong ones among them, probably attracted by the changes here. Alyabalisi attaches great importance to the information of these outsiders. The 3 people who appeared at this time were Bing's Hiliutian, Xiao Tiantian, and Xiongqi. The most peculiar thing is that King Lu's god-fighting clothes were actually packed in a box and carried on the back of Xiongqi. Does he trust Xiongqi so much? Xiaoming smiled and said to Alyabalisi, "Haha, brother, I have become a god fighter, so I have to have a few followers to fill the facade. Don't be surprised, brother." Alyabalisi immediately felt disdainful, but he did not show it, and smiled and perfunctorily said, "Nothing, it's not a big deal. Let's set off now." As he said that, he took the initiative to walk in front and lead the way. There was no way, the others were not locals, and they didn't know how to get to the Forbidden Land. He must lead the way. Xiaoming and the other 4 followed closely behind. Although the wind and snow were strong on the ice field, these people were all strong and their speed would not be slowed down. Why did these reincarnations follow? Of course, they wanted to protect their god-fighting clothes. That's right, according to the agreement signed between Xiaoming and them, the Tianquan star god-fighting clothes had been traded to them. Of course, Xiaoming was the god-fighter canonized by Hilda. They couldn't wear this god-fighting clothes at present. Moreover, if the mission was over now, they couldn't take the god-fighting clothes out of this world. As for what kind of mission the space gave them for this, Xiaoming didn't know. Theoretically, Xiaoming could trade the god-fighting clothes to them after returning from the underwater temple. But considering the need to deal with Albalisi, the first wise man in the fairy palace, Xiaoming really had no confidence, so he had to drag these brothers to take the blame. You know, Xiaoming is not afraid of those who can fight, but he is afraid of this kind of wise man. Those who can fight are straight, Xiaoming can't beat them, and there is still a chance to run away. Facing a wise man, perhaps he has already lost before he even starts. Anyway, the god-fighting clothes have been signed and sent out. It is better to outsource the fighting as well. At the same time, Yin Xiaoming, who is in the underworld, is drooling at the 3 devil fruits. These 3 fruits are the smoke fruit with a completeness of 35.1%, the sand fruit with a completeness of 33.3%, and the thunder fruit with a completeness of 28.8%. According to the agreement, the money is paid and the goods are delivered. After the 6th heaven of ice received the god-fighting clothes, he gave these 3 natural devil fruits with a completeness of about 1/3 to Xiaoming. These 3 fruits have been certified by the system. Otherwise, the 6th heaven of ice would not be able to bring them into the reincarnation world. It is certainly difficult to smuggle items from the reincarnation world to the outside, it is equally difficult to smuggle items from the outside to the reincarnation world. Only things that have been certified by the space can be brought in and out at will. So even though these fruits are not complete, they consumed a lot of resources in Game of Thrones to obtain them, and they have been certified by the space. They are indeed basically equivalent to a piece of God-fighting clothes that have not been certified by the space. In fact, Xiaoming prefers those things that can be smuggled. After all, they can be cheaper. But no one smuggles devil fruits into the world of Saint Seiya. If they are smuggled in, if they cannot be sold, they will have to spend energy and resources to smuggle them out. This is too uneconomical. So the ones that people bring in are naturally certified. Xiaoming can't ask to change them to ones that have not been certified by the space. Besides, uncertified devil fruits cannot be superimposed. Such natural devil fruits are useless to anyone except Xiaoming. If Xiaoming insists on it, it will definitely arouse suspicion from people from all walks of life. That is the most troublesome. So Xiaoming would rather lose a little and change such devil fruits. After Xiaoming's triple source energy enhancement, the integrity of the 3 devil fruits was enhanced to about 73%. Reincarnations generally don't dare to take this kind of complete devil fruit, unless it's a critical moment of life and death. For humans, it's better to use a complete natural fruit. However, the devil fruit strengthened by Xiaoming can no longer be used for stacking. It can only be eaten. Fortunately, it's not only humans who can eat devil fruits, but also mind beasts. I remember that in the Locking Demon Tower, Xiaoming once got a very broken devil fruit. That time, I also traded with the reincarnations who cosplayed as the 3 admirals of the Navy. Of course, those 3 reincarnations did not have fruit abilities. However, the devil fruits obtained at that time were too broken. Now thinking back, it was only about 3–8%. The completeness of the devil fruit is not clearly marked, but needs to be felt by the reincarnations themselves. At that time, Xiaoming's strength was very limited, and he could only feel it roughly. It was impossible to confirm it by percentage. In fact, only Xiaoming could make such a judgment accurate to 0.1%. Most reincarnations could not do it. Therefore, the 3 fruits traded by I6th Heaven to Xiaoming were only about 1/3 complete, and he could not be more precise. Xiaoming used up the broken devil fruits at that time after strengthening them slightly. One of the human fruits was eaten by Mao Mao. One of the light and floating fruits is still gathering dust in Guangmingding, and Xiaoming has forgotten it. The other 3, the fast cut, smoke, and imitation fruits, were all eaten by Xiaoming's uniform beast. This shows that the mind beasts can eat devil fruits. Of course, in addition to the mind beasts, Xiaoming thinks there is another kind that can be eaten. And Xiaoming likes them more, that is the 7-star shadow clone. Giving it to the mind beasts actually requires the mind beasts to bear some risks. High-level mind beasts all have souls. Xiaoming is a little worried. The 7-star shadow clone does not need to bear any risks. Even if it dies, it's no big deal.